if you have something that you want to do, then do it. I think life is way too short. And especially if you're in your 20s, in your 30s, you're in a special position of power to where like you could lose every penny in your bank account and you have the rest of your life to make all of that back. So why not take the risk? And, even if it doesn't work out the first time, you can always jump back into another job and get that money back. I just think that life is too short.
Welcome to the Quit Work podcast, 15-minute conversations with people who have quit their job and gone their own way. I'm Mark, and every week I talk to someone who's taken the bold step of quitting work to start living their true life. The idea is to inspire you to live your true life, whatever that might mean to you. Today I'm talking to Hadley, owner and founder of Life Well Worked, who loved her job managing a mental health clinic until it began to take a toll on her own mental health. She quit to start her own business, helping other entrepreneurs take their first steps towards building a career and a life that fits them. Hadley, welcome to the Quit Work podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So working in mental health, that must be one of the most demanding careers imaginable. How did you get into that?
So I went into college because I'd always thought that I'd wanted to be a doctor. And so I got into the pre-med field, and that turned out to be a little too demanding. So I switched to psychology, just thinking, well, because I've always been interested in the brain. So that was cool. I switched to psych, graduated, and then found a job posting for TMS therapy. It's a new treatment for depression. And I started at that clinic in St. Louis as a TMS technician. So I was delivering those depression treatments to people who struggle with depression and anxiety symptoms. And I really loved it. It was a huge privilege to be part of the recovery journey for those people who really, really needed help, and saw lots of success. And so I just enjoy the process of helping people. It was awesome.
Yeah, that must have been very rewarding.
It really was. And I think it's a field that is underserved. I don't think that we talk about mental health nearly enough as we should. And so, yeah, it was really awesome for me to can not only spread the word about that treatment, but just to, be that person for people who needed the help, who needed someone to really listen to them. It was fun.
Yeah. So you said you found yourself, as time went on in this job, continually trading more of your time and your effort and your talent without the increase in pay. Can you say more about that?
hmm Yeah, so I am just someone who always puts 110% of myself into my work, which isn't anybody's fault but my own. I obviously was passionate about what I was doing, and I really enjoyed helping, but I found myself putting too much in. I was burnout. I found myself just wanting more free time and more time to relax. And toward the end of my time at that clinic, I found myself becoming depressed and struggling with stomach issues and just anxiety. And, I'd obviously had the conversation with my boss about a raise and all of those things. And he did do his best to kind of help me out where he could. But we were a small startup, and he just wasn't in the position to really give me what I wanted. And I've had other jobs, and it's the same recurring theme where I put my all into the job, and I feel like almost like I'm being taken advantage of, like I'm not getting uh the things in return that I'm giving, to the business itself. So I just, I thought if I can make my boss X amount of money per year, um, and if I have the ability to, be successful at my day job, then I can be just as successful as a business owner. And then, not only that, but give myself the raises that I know I deserve and take the breaks that I know I need. So that's kind of why I ended up leaving.
I talk to a lot of people who, like you, are just naturally the kind of people who are always going to give 110%, and I'm one of those people.
Right.
And it's a difficult dynamic when you start working for somebody and you're giving 110% and you don't necessarily get that back. What do you do? Do you stop giving 110%? I imagine for you and for me,
Right.
that's kind of quite difficult to do. So are there some people who just aren't good employees and really need to be working for themselves?
I think so. On my Instagram account, I'm very adamant about, if you are someone who tends to give 110% at their job, is successful at their day job, but then you also find yourself wanting, the more time and flexibility. You feel like you're almost being taken advantage of, even though most of the time you aren't being taken advantage of. It's just you agreed to, an employment contract and you signed up for that. But yeah, I do think that if if you're someone who is has that drive, then by all means, it's worth a shot.
So, going back to your job in the mental health clinic, what was the one thing that finally made you quit?
So it's funny because I had been kind of toying with the idea of starting my own business. Actually, the last 3 years before decided to make that jump, start my own business. And I had some PTO that I needed to use, and uh, I had family in town, so I took 5 days off from work, and I came back to just kind of a logistical mess. And I had already struggled with the idea of leaving my family, leaving home, like leaving that place where I just felt relaxed and happy, to coming back to work just to this mess that had already been causing me so much stress. And I think that was the day that I was like, yeah, I have this goal in mind. I know that I'm capable of running my own business. I have a bunch of money saved up. I don't have any kids. So I'm going to quit. So I put my notice in, hired a business coach, and the rest is history.
It's funny, isn't it? The taking a break from work and then coming back, that's when it really hits you the hardest. Makes you think whether
Yeah.
you really want to be doing this still.
Well, and to add to that, shortly before I took that 5 day break, I was in Hawaii with my grandparents and my boyfriend, and I thought, this is just what I need to come back, feel refreshed and ready to get back to work.
Yeah.
And I found, coming back from Hawaii, that it was the opposite. I came back to work. I was having trouble focusing. I was even crying. And it just kind of reinforced the idea that it's like, you know what? Like my body is telling me that this is not the structure for me.
It's always a really bad sign when you find yourself in tears at work. That means something needs to change.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my breaking point.
How did your employer take it?
He was upset. He was really upset, as I expected him to be. And it's not that I was after, I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to necessarily leave. I enjoyed what I did, but, it's what I needed to do. I knew that that was the right thing for me. And at the end of the day, he was really supportive of that.
And how did it feel for you? Did it feel scary? Did it feel a relief? What were your feelings after you quit?
Um, it was a mix of both. So I am someone who I was raised by, parents and family who, always kind of push the idea that, you go to college, you graduate with a good degree, get a, good high paying full-time job with a Fortune 500 company, and you stick with it till you retire. And so that was the expectation. Um, so it was scary leaving and feeling like, am I letting my family down? Am I risking my financial security? So it was scary. And then, the idea of like, well, what if I fail?
Yeah.
The other thing was the relief where, it's like, well, now I'm not expected to be somewhere at 8 in the morning. I don't have to fight traffic. I don't have to, you know, condense my life into this box that was required of, those 9 to 5 jobs. So it was a mix of both. But once I kind of got settled into my new normal, I just kind of I settled into this new belief in myself. Like I just knew that whatever I put my mind to, as long as I don't give up, I don't fail. So, um, yeah, it's been a mix of both for sure.
So how did you get started on the business? That's a huge thing to take on. So how did that go?
Yeah. So I actually hired a business coach shortly before I quit. Um, and it was purely by chance. I didn't even know that I needed a business coach, but she popped up on my Instagram feed and I messaged her and I just said, hey, I love what you're doing because she's doing something similar to me.
Yeah.
And we got to talking. And so I ended up hiring her. And she was the one that ultimately helped me decide on a business niche. She kind of walked me through, like, who are you? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you stand for? And yeah, so ultimately, I just decided on, I'm going to help people in their 20s who know that they want to be entrepreneurs. They just don't know where to start. They want out of that 9 to 5 grind. Um, and, to help them kind of figure out who they are, how they fit into that entrepreneurial space, and then help them into those first steps of their business initiation. So it really started by, just doing some market research, opening up my Instagram and TikTok accounts, um, putting my content out there and really just talking to people and building those connections and finding out what people in my age group need, what they don't need, and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that I knew 100%, what I needed to do or what I wanted to do right up front.
Yeah.
But as time went on, I had a better understanding as to what, I really wanted to do and how to do that.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I think this is an issue for a lot of people trying to start their own business. How did you make it work financially?
Sure. So that's the thing. Um, I'm going to start out by saying that I would not recommend that you go and quit your job. You really have to be someone who is prepared for for something like that. For me personally, I could go over a year and not have to work a job. I had over a year's salary saved up. I budgeted. I cut all sorts of subscriptions and costs out of my monthly spending. Um, so you really want to make sure that you have at least 6 months saved up, and then just be prepared for the mental shift that comes along, with quitting your job. It's you no longer have a consistent stream of income. You may have months that you don't bring anything in, like I have, and it's scary. You're gonna be tempted to go in and go get another job, but you have to remember that if you do quit your job, you quit your job to be serious about starting a business. So I would just say, if you're gonna go cold turkey, have a bunch of money saved up and have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so
And be
important.
mentally prepared.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
totally different way of thinking about money. When you've got that money coming in every month, life is straightforward financially. It may not be good, it may not
Hmm.
be as much money as you would hope, but it's fairly predictable, and you know what's coming in, you know what's going out. It's a whole different
Right.
thing when you run your own business.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that if you're someone who enjoys kind of pushing yourself to the limit in some ways, just kind of like for me, I knew that by quitting my job, it wouldn't be comfortable, but I knew that I would grow as a person. I would learn a lot more about myself, and I really have. And not all of it's been fun, but just by quitting your job and kind of free flowing through life. It teaches you a lot. And for me, I've learned to be strong in my beliefs and strong in my desires. And yeah, so if you're someone who is up for the challenge, I say go for it.
Where does it come from, that courage? I mean, that is so admirable, and it's even more difficult if you come from a family that's not entrepreneurial, is more hold down a regular job kind of culture in
Right.
your family. So where did it come from, this courage to do what you're doing?
Um, I I really think it came from me just being so uncomfortable with trading my life for something so mediocre. I just for some reason I'm so sensitive to the fact that life is short and it goes quick. So if you have something that you want to do, then do it. I think life is way too short, and especially if you're in your 20s, in your 30s, you're in a special position of power to where like you could lose every penny in your bank account, and you have the rest of your life to make all of that back. So why not take the risk? And even if it doesn't work out the first time, you can always jump back into another job and get that money back. I just think that life is too short.
What have you learned from working with others on their careers?
I have learned that we need more people out there who are pushing this idea of, do what you want to do. If there's something about your life that you're uncomfortable with, or if there's something that is even making you physically or mentally ill, then why are you perpetuating those things? I think that there are people who need help understanding that, not only are you capable of changing your life, but it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go get a 9 to 5 job. You can think outside the box. And I've just by working with my clients so far, I've learned that we need more of those people out there pushing this idea that, you can do what you want to do with your life.
What would you say to people who are pulled towards entrepreneurship but just don't know how to get started?
I would say that you're capable. You are 105% capable of anything that you put your mind to. I think it's a matter of, and I'm not just self-promoting, I really do, believe in the power of a coach. Um, Work with someone, even if it's just a mentor, someone in your family or someone that work with someone who can help you take the first steps toward, business ownership. I think one of the biggest things that you could do for yourself, not only in business ownership, but just in life in general, is really strengthening your mindset and correcting your self-talk. I think that um, my biggest obstacle starting out was my mindset, this talk in my head that, oh, well, what if you fail? I can't do this. What if I have to go back to another job? I'm not capable. My family's going to be disappointed. If you can do away with all of that noise, you're going to be just fine. This is your life. You have one chance, as far as we know, so why not take the risk and start that business you've been dreaming of starting? That's what I would say.
That's fantastic. Well, listeners, if you'd like to connect with Hadley, you can find her on TikTok at Hadley Ann. That's Hadley ANNN. There are 3 N's on the end of that, I believe. And also on
Other ones were taken.
of course, and also on Instagram at Life Well Worked. Hadley, thanks so much for joining me on the Quit Work podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for listening to the Quit Work podcast. I love talking to people who have taken the bold step of quitting their job to start living their true life. Join me for a fresh conversation every week. Subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel at quitworkproject.com. And if you have any comments on this episode, or if you'd like to tell your own quit work story, I'd love to hear from you. Contact me at quitworkproject.com or on Twitter or Instagram at quitworkproject. I hope you too find your way to quitting work and living your true life.